Yeah, stream title. Not really feeling that great physically. I mean, I'm not like sick. I'm just like, I don't know, kind of dragged out, achy. I have been since like yesterday, but I almost feel like I should be streaming. I mean, with as many days off as I have, I also should be doing more things around my house, but yeah, I'm actually in a kind of weird position right now. In the next 2 days that I'm actually scheduled to work, are both waiting on a delivery that hasn't shown up, and based on some other information on my online, like, portal, employee portal, I have my doubts that it's ever going to show up and that this is ever going to be executed, which, I mean, I'm kind of fine with. Like, I did this thing once before and it was a disaster, though a lot of the reason it was a disaster was because, in addition to it being the first time I had ever done this, I forgot my ADHD meds that day. I've probably mentioned that this thing on stream before, but yeah. So I was supposed to be doing that today, actually. Now, it's a very short thing. It wouldn't be a full-length work day, even if I was working today. But anyway, yeah, I've like my shoulder hurts, so I don't really feel like streaming. I mean, I do feel like streaming, but I also don't feel like doing anything. So I think playing a visual novel is probably the best thing to get some streaming, like get some videos for the YouTube. I was going to say, this stuff is so similar to... Now that sounds like... Again, I would have really fit in perfectly at St. Timothy. There were actually times in... I guess I'd call it elementary school. I forget exactly what year it was, 'cause I went to a K through 8 school. In fact, that's part of the reason why I ended up skipping. It was... I lived in a very small town. They didn't really have the type of accommodations for a gifted learner, let alone a gifted learner who was also technically had a learning disability. I mean, it didn't really seem like that because of how well I learned, but I mean, yeah, neuroatypical. So they just skipped me ahead as many grades as my parents would allow, which was 2, except it wasn't an immediate process. It let's put it this way. In in September of, wait, what year would that be? In September of 1995, I was fully a first grader, and in September of 1999, I was fully a seventh grader. Most of the time in between, I was taking classes with multiple grades. I specified September of 95 because they didn't immediately, it was fairly early in my first grade year that they realized that just having me be in first grade was not going to cut it. So, I think starting in around October of that year, I was taking math and science with the third graders. Then the next year, I was taking those two classes with the fourth graders, and the other two primary academic classes, reading language arts, writing, and social studies with the third graders, and all of the specials, they called them there, basically what would be electives in a high school and stuff, like music, art, etc. Well, PE is not an elective, but PE, all of those type of things, and of course homeroom and lunch and all of that, with the second graders. Although, due to scheduling conflicts, I actually sort of took the writing with the second graders as well, because it didn't line up with any of my other classes. And I actually sort of self-taught myself third grade social studies because there would have been a time conflict with fourth grade science. Actually, that's right. It was, for some reason, for the third graders, they had science half the year and social studies the other half of the year, or alternating marking periods, aka quarters. The more I'm thinking about it, it was a very weird thing. But anyway, so then the year after that, I was taking all four of the academic classes with the fifth graders and all of the specials with the third graders, which means there actually was not a single class that I did not take in third grade at some point. It just happened over 3 different years. Then came the 98-99 school year, which was, at the start of that year, I was taking I still had fourth grade as my homeroom, so I was still officially a fourth grader. The only other class that I was taking with the fourth graders, however, was phys ed, because I was, even for my age, I was scrawny, so having me take phys ed with kids 2 years older than me was not something they wanted me to do. But the fourth grade teacher at that time, which was not the same fourth grade teacher as when I had math and science with the fourth graders. When I had the math and science with fourth grade, I had a very elderly teacher who was retired at the end of that school year. But the young teacher that was now the fourth grade teacher was, I'm not really sure how best to describe him. I mean, he was perhaps, I mentioned that he was a young teacher, fresh out of college, out of getting his teaching certification, right? Yeah, he was probably only in his mid-20s and still wanted to be one of the kids almost. I mean, kids loved him at recess. But like I said, I didn't have him for that many academic classes, so all that I know about his actual abilities as a teacher, I know from when my younger sister was in 4th grade. His excuse for why sometimes he'd grade papers and he'd mark things down as wrong that weren't wrong. And I mean, this was stuff it obviously wasn't wrong. Like, my mom went in to ask about why it was marked wrong, and she even said that my sister had me even helping out, like I had looked over the homework, and this teacher knew well enough to know that if I had looked over my sister's math homework, it was probably correct. But, yeah, back to when I was there, like I said, the only things that I was not taking with the 6th graders was phys ed, which, obviously meant that, where do you think I went when the 6th graders were having phys ed? Because, yeah, there's only one class for each grade. In fact, after I graduated, actually even after my younger sister got out of that school, at some point they actually made it so that there were fewer classes than there were grades. There were certain years that just sort of had to become merged because the town just had that few kids. But yeah, so I had basically almost a sort of study hall type of thing. But again, ADHD. The teacher did not like that I apparently was too loud going back into the classroom and such at a certain time. But actually, I don't remember exactly what happened. Maybe it was I don't know, but yeah, eventually there was a problem. Yeah, actually, I think that was something that couldn't be avoided, but I don't remember exactly how this happened, but something happened that, like, midway through the year, around December, we actually switched my homeroom so that was with the 6th graders as well. And then, of course, the next year, I was just fully a 7th grader, even phys ed. It worked out fine. And and then, of course, in high school, there actually was a phys ed for, there actually was basically a special needs phys ed class. They called it adaptive PE. It was actually pretty cool. I mean, a lot of times we just, like, it was held in, like, the weight room, and so, like, we just, like, work out and stuff. It was interesting, although I think I was still in adaptive PE in junior year. In senior year, I did have a proper sophomore PE because for the most part, like, for the PE, it's also sort of overlaps with, for freshmen, juniors, and seniors, it's phys ed 3/4 of the year and health 1/4 of the year. But for sophomores, and I was the age of a sophomore, so it was definitely the right time for me to be doing that. That other quarter of the year was for driver's ed. And if I was going to still be an adaptive PE, they would not be able to put me into driver's ed. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of talking and very little actually playing the game. Right, I forgot that it's... I have the touchpad. I forgot sometimes it can think it's a left click if I hold it too long. Or is that right click? Yeah, right click. I'm forgetting what's what because it's been so long since I've used an actual mouse. I've heard that bread is actually a bad thing to feed to ducks. Beatrice. Trust their fashion sense more than... Oh, right, for the day. Hellish mix of clashing perfumes. Way to make fun of the fact that guys seem to be non-existent in these games. Even the ones that aren't actually love interests. There are like no supporting characters, well, other than staff members who are male. Except for possibly Fran, but we don't really know. I'd say which they are, but I'd say it's pretty safe to say that they are both and neither. and everything in between. Sure, I'm ready for the inevitable supernova level explosion of energy and hyperactivity. Hell, I'm not even sure the world is ready for a cataclysmic event of such scale. Even as she tries to keep a relatively calm face, there's also an obvious glint of interest in Hilda's eyes as she adjusts her glasses. No point in asking so many questions when we can see for ourselves soon, right, Beatrice? Yeah, true that. Well put, sis. Probably struck out somewhere with Fran or her sister, I think. The confident tone I said that with belies the fact that I've already begun checking the time intermittently on my wristwatch, casting quick glances at my surroundings, searching for a trace of fully accented feminine voice calls out to me from behind us, alleviating the anxiety that's begun to build up within me. Dobry večer, Eric. It is a gala amazing evening, isn't it? Wilhelmina aura about you. Oh. Like I said, Fran has begun to grow on me. That does not agree with the actual imagery on the screen at all. You can both see a necklace on Sophia and can see no bracelets on Natalia's wrists. Yep, that's a pun. Oh God, I, I cannot even imagine what the punchline to this is going to be. But the setup alone is enough to make me laugh. And we're not going to get the punchline. Here we go. Actual CG. Oh my. Mostly because I've been so chatty. This one's actually been a very long video. I should probably